purpose of the workshop is primarily, and the whole point of this work was to understand the customers' wants and needs. So we're going to really talk through that today, and you'll see there's posters dotted around the rooms. We're going to get a really feel for the different customers within the outdoors. We're going to understand the whole of the market, so we're going to talk quite broad to begin with. So it's the generic trends, size of the market, and then we're going to really home in then onto the specifics of the different segments based on the customer motivations. And then I'm going to hand over to Martin. We're going to talk through outdoors provision. And then we developed some nice tools that help you understand overlaying supply and demand, and we're going to use the afternoon to talk through the tools. So just in terms of content, as I said, we're going to start really broad. We're going to talk about the whole of the outdoors. We're going to talk about the landscape of the outdoors, size of the overall market. Don't worry, I'm going to talk through that in detail. We're going to talk through each of the segments, and then we're going to talk through the detail of provision.
And the big thing for me is thinking about when people go to an activity provider, given that so much of it's informal, what do they go to a provider for? What is it that they want? And when they do then go to a provider, if we can profile that, are they actually getting what they want from those providers? And have we got a kind of mismatch between supply and demand? Before we do any more of that, we're going to get you off your feet because I want to get you involved straight away. What I would like you to do for me is hop up out of your chairs and write down for me what is the outdoors. So I've put on a board over there, this is what the outdoors means to me. If you were going to distill what your preconception of the outdoors is and write it down on one word on a post-it note, write it on a sticky note, stick it on that sheet, and we'll see what we come up with. We would like you to write down your #1 motivation for getting active outdoors. So when you take your activity outside and you do that activity of your choice in the great outdoors, what is it that motivates you to go out into that fresh air and into the outdoors to get active? But what's brilliant about this is that we've now asked this of over 600 people. So whilst this isn't this isn't the project, but it's sort of become a little sort of sub-passion of the project itself. What's absolutely important for you to understand at this stage is that these are the things that matter to people. And when we ask people these questions, they pretty much sort of fall into several camps. People have talked to us about the space, the fresh air and the greenery. So things about the natural environment that they want to kind of get out into. They've talked about family time, escaping the kids. And they've talked about sort of space to think and the people that they want to do it with. That's one of the kind of the key things. But there's an awful lot about the kind of self-fulfillment, freedom, being outside, relaxation, escapism, being human. These are the things that come up more than anything else, the kind of the issues of self-fulfillment. And the important thing is you can imagine that we've asked this from some of the most outdoorsy people that you can imagine and some of the most sporty people that you can imagine. So if you're going around to sort of, chief executives of county sports partnerships and sports organisations, even people who are deeply entrenched in their own sport, one person has once written surfing on a sticky note and put it on. The activity is secondary to this stuff, and the activity is a vehicle by which people get these kicks and these needs.
So in total, we sort of heard the voices of 11,000 consumers within the outdoors. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk through today in terms of trends, in terms of the different segments, the demographics, is based on our data analysis. To start right at the top, this took about 6 months for us to actually all agree the definition of the outdoors. It was painful. What it boiled down to was the Sport Rec Alliance's definition of the outdoors. So they produced the Reconomics report right at the start of this piece of work. And their definition of the outdoors was this. So we went round the houses and we all came with our own different definitions, and we said, actually, let's just all work with the same definition. So it's basically the activities, if you like, that are in scope within the outdoors work is any sport, physical activity that's born, has its roots from the natural environment and takes place within a natural environment, but not cricket pitches, golf, etc. It can be purpose-built, so it can be skate parks, it can be artificial ski slopes, it can be canoe slaloms. But it's any activity that's born from the natural environment. Okay? By using that definition, that basically then allowed us to dump down all of the activities that were in scope, if you like. We're very clear that it was all environments, so sky, snow, mountain countryside, urban. Right, we're sort of a few months in and I had a really great conversation with Eugene around the importance of understanding urban participation, concrete space. A lot of people who think outdoors automatically go green space, got to go to a mountain, got to go to the Lake District. And it was really important for us to include urban in this. And actually, a lot of the results have shown how important it was to include urban in this and the relationship of people who participate in inner cities, etc. Walking is hill walking, rambling, strenuous walking, so that's in. It's not the meanie definition of walking, which is an amble around the park type of walking, so it's specifically hill walking, rambling, strenuous walking. Cycling is not road cycling, so it's bobbly tyres, so it's mountain biking, cyclocross, BMX, mountain biking. That really was born from British Cycling. When we had the conversation with them, they said, actually, we know quite a lot about road cycling. What we really want to understand, particularly mountain biking, is that relationship of cycling outdoors within this. So that was they're cool. In terms of running, same as cycling, really. So cross-country running, fell running, park running, but not road running. Okay? Excellent. Okay, so the market. So this was a Sport England Commission piece of work, so we were looking at over 16s, and that was the remit. So all of these stats are looking at over 16s. Hold that in your heads, because a lot of the things we talk through, all of the survey analysis was over 16s. There's some areas that may look different if we'd included younger age groups, and I think that's certainly that's one of the strongest feedbacks we've got from the sector is, wow, we really do need to understand this for young people. So for this piece of work, it was 16 plus. So in terms of population, it's 43.7 million. In terms of enjoyment of the outdoors, 24 million people enjoy being outdoors. So that includes picnicking in the park, going for a play with the kids in the park, having a stroll around the park with your dog, etc. So this is a stat taken from MENI, Monitoring the Engagement of the Natural Environments Report. It's a Natural England report. It's produced every year. You're probably familiar with it, or start to be familiar with it now. That captures broad relationship with the outdoors, an element of which is physical activity. But the purpose of this work was to understand relationship with physical activity. So it's very useful to know that people generally enjoy being outdoors, but how many of those people actually enjoy being physically active outdoors? So that was the bit that we needed to look at. So in terms of total active, 32.4 million are the active. So that includes your footballers and your tennis players and generally people who are active. If we look at that through the lens of outdoors, 8.9 million are active outdoors. So that 8.9 million is the people across all of those definitions of activities we just had up, and that's any frequency. Okay, so it's the total size of the outdoors market. If we look at that then through the frequency, regularity, of those that are active, 15.6 million are regularly once a week or more. Through the lens of outdoors, 2.5 million are once a week or more, who are regularly active outdoors across our definition, including those activities. So when we presented this back on the 12th of February to Jenny, and she's like, whoa, that's a really interesting market, but what I'd really like to know is what's the opportunity within the market? So we had to go away again and do some little bit more working out. And what we found was that, based on the analysis of our survey, was of those that are active outdoors, when we asked the question, would you want to do more? It worked out that 2.8 million people would want to do more. So this may include just a couple of times a year, and they've said that they would want to do more regular activity outdoors. Worked out to be 2.8 million. We then looked at those that either aren't doing anything or are doing something but not active outdoors, but they stated that they want to do something active outdoors. That worked out to be 18.2 million. So if you pull those together, you've got around 21 million people who either want to be active outdoors, who are active outdoors and want to do more.